Good afternoon, class. Afternoon? Yes. Yes, okay. Great job. Okay, so we left off last Monday with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo in 1914 and how that kicked off World War One. There was also that quote about how Europe was like a powder keg waiting for a spark to explode. They hadn't gone to war in like the longest time in European history, which was like 50 years or something like that. So anyway, and that was a small war. Um, yeah, the powder keg explodes here. So what's going to happen after the assassination? Austro-Hungarian Empire, they're going to punish Serbia. So Austro-Hungarians, that's the Habsburg territories. Big empire. Serbia is a tiny little country which had just received independence within the last 15 years. And they present them with an ultimatum, which means do this or else. And it has all these crazy demands that the Serbians can't possibly meet. And so Serbia says, let's negotiate. We can do some of it, but we can't do all of it. Austria-Hungary, nope. War. War is declared. Why is Austria-Hungary so angry? Well, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was about to become the new emperor, and he was shot in the middle of the street. But maybe if they'd looked back in time, they wouldn't have made such high demands on Serbia, because there's one very, very large, powerful country that Serbia is allied with because of their Slavic ethnic, relationship. Does anyone know which one that is? If you said Russia, you are correct. So what's going to happen with Serbia? Oh, not the Omino effect, but the domino effect. All right, I just have to correct this. There we go. So Russia immediately mobilizes troops. That when you say mobilize troops, that means they call up the army and get them into position for a potential attack, like on the edge of their border. So they're ready to invade Austria-Hungary. Britain, Italy, and Germany say, Austria, Russia, just don't go to war. And both sides are like, nope, not listening. We're getting ready for war. And then this really kicks off this what you call a domino effect, with countries declaring war on each other because of that weird alliance system that was ready to just go off. That was a terrible snap. Because of that weird alliance system which was ready to go off. Okay. I do this knowing I don't know how to edit the videos. And yeah, if it wasn't for that ham sandwich, or the stalled car, well, it might have still happened. Something else might have kicked this off, but this is how it worked. So, at this point, here are our alliances. We have what are called the Central Powers, which are going to be in the center, with little Serbia caught in between, in the middle there. And then in the west, we have these allies, allied with Russia also. So it's basically going to be purple against green. Now, who do you think's more vulnerable? Just look at the position. The Central Powers, for sure, because they can get attacked from this side. They can also get attacked from this side. So you don't want to be vulnerable on both sides of your country. Again, thanks, Keynote, for ruining this look. Okay, so once Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia, we have this chain reaction or domino effect. We have Russia mobilizing the troops. Germany is allied with Austria-Hungary. They declare war on Russia. So remember when I went back, if we go back to that first question I asked, what would you do if one of your friends got into a fight or something like that? Or should you always support a friend, right? Here, they're going to go with their alliances, and you declare war on my friend, then I'm declaring war on you. And then whoever got war declared upon them, their friends are going to declare war back. So how does this work out? Germany knew that France was an ally of Russia, so they're like, let's declare war on France too, before France even had a chance. And then at this point, Britain's like, okay, we wanted to stay out of it. We're begging people to do it, but with this, you just declared war on France also, which, after 1,000 years of fighting, we're now friends with France. Yeah, we're going to declare war on you, Germany. And now, this is what the textbook says, but on that map it showed the Ottomans in the Central Powers, so whatever, I don't know. But Italy, which ironically was allied with Austria-Hungary and Germany, they get out of that. And they're like, we're going to take our time. They end up switching sides and joining the what we call the Allied powers, which is kind of interesting. But I think they took a look at the map and were like, we don't want to be in this middle zone. We would rather be, on the western front. And then Japan over here. Now remember, it's the age of imperialism, right? So, and we briefly touched on this. We talked a little bit about Africa and the Congo. And if you read more, hopefully you read about the Zulu Wars in the textbook. By the way, pretty cool Netflix show called Shaka Zulu. It's from like the 80s, but it's interesting. Whatever. Imperialism. So at this time in Japan had been looking at the rest of the world and seeing European powers take over lands in Africa and in Asia. They'd seen the United States assert dominance over the entire Western Hemisphere, also take lands in Asia, and they're like, if we don't do something, we're next. So around the year 1900, Japan starts really building up its military, and it starts taking over it takes over what's now known as Korea, or was Korea, then Japan had it for like 50 years almost. It starts invading China, and it says, okay, there's a war brewing in Europe. We can join one of these sides and pick off territories in Asia of a country that we're... So, again, losing it here. If Japan allies with, let's say, Britain and France and Russia against Germany, well, that gives them an excuse to go and invade German colonies in Asia and therefore increase their dominance over Asia, which is exactly what they do. Which is relevant here because that's why the Japanese Empire is so big in World War II, and then the United States has to fight them off all these different islands that are thousands of miles away from Japan before they can actually get close to Japan. It's like a 4-year process. So, by August 1914, so 2 months after the assassination, we have the Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary. Used to be the Triple Alliance, but Italy moved over because they figured these guys are going to win. And then you have the Ottomans and Bulgaria. So these are the Central Powers against what are called the Allied Powers. Now, just a quick note, for pretty much any war, whoever wins are usually called the Allies, and whoever loses gets like a different name. So you already know who won this war. Although I think everybody lost World War I, to be honest. Sorry, inexplicably losing my voice. So Belgium's going to join up because they get invaded by Germany, while Germany's on their way to France. Italy, again, they switch sides. They see who probably going to win, and then Japan, for imperial reasons, says we can pick off German colonies in the Pacific and in Asia, so we're going to do that. So if we look at our map now, we've got Bulgaria joined up with the Central Powers, and Italy is now with the Allied Powers. So is Belgium. So we even have a clearer map here. Let's do some red lines. So the division here, and again, Switzerland's always neutral. Netherlands, I don't know what they did, honestly, but they were pretty quickly taken over by Germany. And then we have this line here. Again, and down here we have, remember, our good old Suleiman the Magnificent. The Ottomans are still hanging on. And then little Serbia is caught in the middle. Serbia's going to get crushed pretty quickly. Now, 2 key terms, we're going to refer to them later. These red lines are going to move back and forth a little bit, but it's going to be a constant back and forth, like seesaw. This is what we call the Eastern Front. And this is the Western Front. So most of these battles, with the exception of some fought in the Mediterranean area, like this one, Gallipoli, because you can reach it by boat, most of the battles of World War I are going to be fought along these red lines, either on the Eastern Front or on the Western Front. Oh, look at this, stalemate. So stalemate, this is a deadlock. So no one really makes any significant advances, and this is due to the styles of military tactics they had did not match the new kind of weapons they had. And the worst stalemate and the most damage that went on was in northeastern France on the Western Front. So this yellow line here is as far as Germany is going to get. And the blue line is sort of where Germany started at the beginning of the war, because they went into Belgium really quick. And as you can see, we have battles 1914, 1918, same spot along this line, which look at this, not much advancement at all. 1916, 1918, 1916, 1914. They're making, neither side is making any progress, and millions of soldiers are dying in these battles. The Schlieffen Plan. So this was a German plan by a guy whose last name was Schlieffen. But what he says is, okay, we're stuck in the middle here. Let's go as quick as possible. Are we going to focus on the Western Front first, or the Eastern Front first? So he decides, let's go to the Western Front. We're going to hit France first, knock them out, because Russia, tons of soldiers, they weren't very well trained. So Russia had to take a lot of time to get its full army up to speed. And Russia's a huge country, so you can have tons of soldiers, but if you're transporting them like from across, Russia's gigantic. It's going to take the Russian army a lot longer to get ready to battle us on the Eastern Front. So if we can take out Britain and France first in the West, then we can focus all of our troops back to the East. Smart plan. Didn't work out, though, because of the whole stalemate thing. So, again, yeah, they invaded Belgium to try to get behind the French army to invade Paris. But at the Battle of the Marne, the Allied forces, so at this point this is mostly British and French soldiers, they beat back the German invaders. And that battle, remember, all the sides are pretty much lined up in August. September 5th, 1914 is the farthest the Germans will get, or the closest they'll get to Paris, even though they're fighting another 4 years. And through the fall of 1914, the Russians got their army together and are invading Eastern Germany. So if we go a little bit back here, Marne, it's cut off here. This is the first Battle of the Marne. It's right outside of Paris. They get close, they get pushed back. This is as close as Germany is ever going to get. Okay, trench warfare is another. It's one of the key terms you'll hear about World War I. Think about it, and I think I talked about this earlier. If you are marching across a field, think of the American Revolution or Civil War, and your opponent has a machine gun which can fire multiple bullets per second, okay, you're going to get wiped out. So let's say you're in that situation. What might you do? Dig a hole. And if everyone digs holes, they're all going to get connected, so you can hide in the hole, be underground. The bullets can't get you unless you peek your head out. And eventually these holes become connected, and they're called trenches. This isn't the first example of trench warfare. It actually kind of started by accident in the Civil War, and it happened in other different, in the Crimean War in Europe. But this is the de facto or default sort of warfare style in World War I. Because again, if a machine gun can fire multiple bullets per second, but you're using strategies where a soldier that were designed for Revolutionary War stuff, where a soldier might be able to shoot 3 bullets in 1 minute, the strategy and the weapons don't match up. The trenches were absolutely disgusting. You can imagine, especially at first too. What if you got shot? What if someone got killed in a trench? How are you going to get their body out without getting shot? kind of difficult. So some bodies might be there for days. That brings the rats in. Where do you go to the bathroom? Yeah, you kind of getting the point. Really gross, horrible places to be. The men slept in mud, washed in mud, ate in mud, and dreamed mud. Yeah. So here is a satellite view later of many of the trenches, and as you can see, eventually, because of the stalemate, they kind of connected all these trenches and had different systems, and they would dig out caves for like the generals to have their quarters in and stuff like that. This would be like probably one army, and then this is the other army. This area in the middle, you might know the term for this. Is called no man's land, because no man could survive in it. You try to go across there, you're going to get gunned down. Now sometimes an army would make an assault, and if you had a few, like let's say 5,000 to 10,000 soldiers all going through no man's land at one shot, you might be able to take the trenches there. But anytime that happened, eventually you'd get pushed back. And it doesn't matter if red is doing it or if blue is doing it. This is what, again, back to the word stalemate. No one really made any significant progress. Here's a modern picture. This was a battlefield of World War I, from 115 years ago, and now it's not just mud anymore. The grass has grown back, but you can still see the trenches. These little pock marks are where bombs fell and made like craters in the earth. But this used to be an actual trench. And there's plenty of places like this in northeastern France. So yeah, back to this idea, no man's land. No man could survive there. So this video that I'm going to post next, I've got to tell you, it's hilarious because... Whoops. Oh, here's kind of a cool picture. Artillery exploding at night. I mean, cool to look at now. Not cool if you were there. But in this video, feel free to laugh because the acting is just atrocious. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent. The video is going to be a little bit longer, but it's a kind of a funny story. I'm not known for my acting. I was in one play in my life. It was in 8th grade, and we did The Wizard of Oz. And I tried out for the Scarecrow, but I couldn't sing and I couldn't dance. And I was disappointed when they didn't cast me as the Scarecrow. So I got to be a farmer, and I thought I was going to get a line like the Twister's coming, but I didn't get the line. So how could I make... And I was on stage in the, like the first or second scene, and I wanted... The 6 of us farmers wanted to do something special. So we had 3 nights, and on the first night, we picked 3 of us that would fall over the haystack when we had to run back into the farmhouse when the Twister came. Second night, the other 3 got to fall over the haystack. That was like the most fun part for us in the play, because we just sat on the hay bale, then we got to fall over the haystack. We got to fall over it. Anyway, the third night, no one remembered to coordinate, so all 6 of us went down going over the hay bale, because we had this one moment where anyone in the crowd might look at us, and we just wanted to make sure they saw us, and it looked stupid. This video, when these guys die, any particular soldier, they make the most dramatic death possible. So you'll see them screaming and but it's so fake looking. It's some movie from the 70s. I don't even know what it is. And these, anyway, they're just actors trying to get noticed. But when everyone does it, the whole production fails. So that's why I think this video is kind of ridiculous. But it does show you how feudal trench warfare is, how the machine guns can be effective, and how no one really would get any traction. It's going to be Germans versus French. The Germans, you can always tell them because they have pointy helmets. Well, it's a normal helmet, but with a little point on top. Why? I have no idea. But anyway, enjoy the video. And I think I'll assign this and maybe another one for later. Until then, I will see you later.